On the day the general elevated his concubine to co-wife, I took out the divorce papers. He froze for a moment, then actually demanded that I leave the mansion with nothing. I took off my outer robe, walked barefoot out of the general's residence. He wanted to watch two women fight over one man, to flaunt his charm that only he could see, but I refused to play along, even if I had to bear the reputation of a jealous wife and make a living by showing my face in public. I would not waste my life in his backyard. Later, he shyly asked me if I could go back to be his co-wife. Ridiculous. After drinking some horse piss, you're arrogant and conceited. I didn't even want to be your main wife, so you expect me to be your concubine. I was originally the legitimate daughter of the Minister of Works, a noble lady of high status. If there had been no accidents, I would have lived a stable and ordinary life, but I was unlucky. 4 years ago, the tyrannical king rebelled, and my father was framed as his accomplice. The entire family was thrown into prison. My father died to prove his innocence. Later, the emperor found out the truth, and the Lin family's unjust verdict was overturned, but my clansmen were almost gone, leaving only a few weak women with no one to rely on. Under the power struggles of the imperial court, the fall of a noble family was so effortless. The prison was dark, damp, and sunless. My mother was critically ill. Her breath as thin as a thread. I begged all the jailers, but no one would give her a cup of hot tea. It was at this time that Su Hua appeared, like a ray of sunlight shining through the narrow iron window, bright and dazzling. My long dormant heart suddenly skipped a beat. He took me out of prison in the name of my fiancé and settled me in the old Lin residence. Su Hua and I had been engaged since childhood, but he had been fighting wars abroad all year round and rarely returned to the capital. We had only met 2 or 3 times when we were young. After years of fighting abroad, he was much darker than the boy I remembered. If he hadn't shown me the marriage contract, I would hardly have recognized him. There were no more usable adult men in the Lin clan. A useless noble family didn't even get a sincere compensation from the emperor. My mother was seriously ill. If she unfortunately passed away, I would have to observe 3 years of mourning. So the emperor issued an imperial edict ordering Su Hua and me to marry as soon as possible. But later, I found out that when Su Hua returned to the capital that time, he had originally come to break off the engagement with me, too. On the wedding day, Su Hua drank cup after cup of wine, as if he had something on his mind, but in the end, he didn't tell me a single word. Soon after, my mother passed away. Following my father, her funeral was extremely grand, but Su Hua, my newlywed husband, only showed up for a moment before leaving in a hurry with a solemn expression. His personal servant scratched his head awkwardly. "Madam, the general has urgent military matters to attend to." When I returned home after handling all the affairs, Su Hua also came back. He even brought back a woman. The maids in the mansion said she was the cousin young lady, Su Hua's childhood sweetheart. The woman, dressed in a light green dress, stood gracefully, hiding timidly behind Su Hua. Was this his urgent military matter, aunt? Hearing that Su Hua had returned, old Madam Su had been waiting in the courtyard early. When the green-clad woman saw the old madam, her expression changed. As if she had suffered great grievances at my hands, she knelt down on her knees, and 2 lines of clear tears fell. "Qingyi greets aunt. Good child, you're finally here. Is your mother well? Thank you for your concern." "Aunt, mother is fine," the old madam, with tears in her eyes, pulled Yi Qingyi into her arms and comforted her softly. "Alas, after all, it's the Su family that let you down. You silly child, if you do anything foolish again, how can I face your mother?" Under Yi Qingyi's thin green dress, there were layers of white gauze on her wrists, with traces of blood seeping through. Su Hua unconsciously clenched his hands, stood with his head bowed beside the old madam, his face full of regret. "Don't say that, aunt, I know your difficulties." I stood aside like an outsider, watching their family's affectionate scene. Lin Xiong, my niece's home is thousands of miles away. She has nowhere to go in the capital. Today, I'll make the decision to let her stay in Hua's room to serve. You shouldn't have any objections, right? I looked at Su Hua, who was also looking at me, his eyes extremely firm. When I didn't speak for a long time, a trace of impatience appeared on his face. I understood what he meant. Daughter-in-law has no objections. Soon, I drank Yi Qingyi's concubine tea, and she became the legitimate concubine of the general's mansion. The old madam doted on her very much, taking her with her every day to teach her how to manage the household. The servants in the mansion were very shrewd. They knew clearly that I, the main wife, was not as favored by the old madam as Yi Qingyi, and even the general stayed in Yi Qingyi's room every night. The servants perfunctorily handled the tasks assigned to them by me, and some things were simply bypassed me, with Yi Qingyi making the decisions. This was a great humiliation for a main wife, but without the support of my maternal family, I was helpless. Yi Qingyi was a concubine's daughter, and the Yi family had never taught her how to manage a household, leading to many jokes. Moreover, she was not extremely vicious. The methods she used to torment me were probably learned from her legitimate mother. The winter clothes she sent were not only thin, but the stitches were also crooked. In the past, even the maids in my room would not wear them. My maid Fang Lu stood up for me. She only mentioned it to Su Hua during dinner, but he flew into a rage. Qingyi said you always put on airs as the main wife to embarrass her. I didn't believe it at first, but I didn't expect you to be such a person. I didn't. Su Hua snorted coldly. Let me ask you, mother hasn't been feeling well, and it's been Qingyi taking care of her all the time. You went once and never went again, didn't you? Yes, but that's because mother doesn't like me. She said only one person needs to take care of her and told me not to go. Mother doesn't like you, and you don't reflect on yourself. Instead, you secretly say that Qingyi doesn't know her place, a concubine doing what the main wife should do. Delusional about turning a sparrow into a phoenix, Su Hua became more and more angry because Yi Qingyi, the woman he loved, had been wronged, but I clearly hadn't done those things, and now I didn't know how to explain. Do you know that your status as the main wife was stolen from Qingyi? What do you mean? Qingyi and I are childhood sweethearts. Deeply in love, we have been together at the border for many years. She should have been my main wife. When I returned to the capital that day, I came to break off the engagement with you, but fate played a trick. It happened that the Lin family was wronged. Seeing you pitiful, I didn't want to hit a person when they were down, so I gave up. If it weren't for the emperor's edict, if it weren't for... Su Hua's voice was cold and harsh, nothing like the person I remembered. I warn you. If you behave yourself, you will naturally have a place in the general's mansion. If you dare to make things difficult for Qingyi again, I will announce to the outside world that you have gone mad and send you to the countryside estate. He flicked his sleeves and left, his black figure getting farther and farther away. If I had known you already had someone you loved, even if my situation was 100 times more difficult, I would not have married you. Marriage is marriage. Who wouldn't want to marry a husband who has them in his heart? 3. After Su Hua left that day, he never stepped into my courtyard again. Soon, Yi Qingyi became pregnant, and Su Hua was overjoyed. Fang Lu was afraid that I would be sad, so she comforted me with plots from storybooks. Miss. In the storybooks, the general and the young lady are the main characters. The young master is just fascinated by the vixen. He will come back to you sooner or later. I quickly covered her mouth. Fortunately, there was no one around. If Su Hua knew that someone called his beloved a vixen, it would be terrible. Don't talk nonsense anymore. Fang Lu didn't know that in storybooks, childhood sweethearts are also a couple. In this story, I was the destroyer who stole someone else's position as the main wife. According to the plot in the storybooks, the main characters live happily ever after, while I, the destroyer, deserved to die alone and end my life in obscurity. But I didn't want to waste my life in Su Hua's backyard. The main characters have their way of living, and I should have mine too. Fang Lu. I remember my mother once said that if a woman's husband dies and she doesn't want to remarry, she can go to the government office to register as a female household and live like a man. Madam did say that. Don't you think it would be great if we could also register as a female household? Fang Lu widened her eyes. Miss, are you possessed by an evil spirit? No, miss. Have you been driven crazy by the young master and concubine Yi? Me. Fang Lu was just a little timid. She was good in other aspects. I was about to explain to her in detail when an unexpected guest arrived. Sister, I wonder if I'm disturbing you. Yi Qingyi had only been pregnant for a little over a month, and it didn't show at all. But Su Hua was worried and sent 4 maids and 2 old women to follow her. "You're not disturbing me, I have nothing to do anyway." I was not allowed to manage household affairs, and the old madam wouldn't let me wait on her. I was even more free than when I was in my maiden home. Sister hasn't liked going out these days. Mother is worried, so she specially asked me to come see you. I told Fang Lu to make tea, but I thought to myself, I don't go to annoy your family. But you actually come to my door. When Yi Qingyi dismissed all the servants, leaving only the 2 of us, she dropped her weak pretense and got straight to the point. "Sister, do you know why mother doesn't like you?" I became interested. The old madam's hostility towards me was inexplicable, elevating the concubine to humiliate me. But I didn't react at all. Had she finally run out of patience? You know, when mother was young, she admired the late Minister of Works for many years. Oh. I had never heard my father mention this. Later, the Minister of Works met your mother, and they got married half a year later. My aunt was thus delayed. I heard that after marriage, they treated each other with respect and affection. Only then did my aunt give up and marry someone else. My cousin's engagement to you was nothing more than revenge. He just wanted the daughter of the old minister to taste the pain of waiting in vain. She had admired my father for many years. But my father had never been engaged to her. Obviously, there was no commitment between them. So how could it be said that someone delayed someone else? However, I already knew the purpose of Yi Qingyi's visit. But old madam didn't expect the emperor to bestow this marriage. I continued Yi Qingyi's words. The position of main wife that should have been yours was snatched away by me just like that. A flash of annoyance at being exposed crossed her eyes. Mother sent me to pass a message. She now has a grandson and doesn't want to pursue the past, but if you feel the slightest remorse, you should voluntarily request a divorce and give her grandson a legitimate status. This marriage was arranged by the emperor. The Su family dared not divorce me, yet they wanted me to offend the emperor. What a clever plan. I took a sip of tea. If that's the case, there's no need for such trouble. Registering the child under my name will also make him legitimate. Yi Qingyi looked like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. Don't even think about it. Letting you voluntarily leave is already giving you face. Don't be ungrateful. Go back. Tell Su Hua to come talk to me personally. If he wants me to give up the position of main wife, he must show sincerity in exchange. 5. After Yi Qingyi returned from my courtyard, she suffered from constant abdominal pain. Even the best doctors in the capital were helpless. Su Hua once again stormed into my courtyard in a rage. What exactly did you feed Qingyi? Why has her abdominal pain not stopped? So many doctors can't figure it out. He grabbed me by the throat, his grip so tight he seemed intent on strangling me. Cough, cough, cough. Fang Lu panicked, pulling frantically at his arm, but her strength was too small to move him an inch. Young master, let go of Miss Concubine. You did come here in the afternoon, but she was extremely careful. She didn't eat or drink anything in our courtyard. Yi Qingyi valued the child in her belly more than anyone else. She would check anything she ate or drank 3 times over. How could she give me an opportunity? I had long guessed she would use her unborn child to frame me. Fortunately, I was prepared. IOT. Su Hua flew into a fury, tightening his grip even more. What did you say? The doctors, outside can't tell. Go to the palace, and invite the imperial physician. He was truly driven mad. He immediately had someone take his waist token to summon the imperial physician. Yi Qingyi's child was her key bargaining chip for being elevated to main wife. She would never take unnecessary risks. I was certain she was mostly faking it. This marriage was bestowed by the emperor. Once the palace was involved, Su Hua would inevitably be accused of favoring his concubine over his legal wife. But what I wanted to see even more was the imperial physician finding nothing wrong. Su Hua, how would you face your delicate, helpless concubine then? Hearing that the general's mansion had requested an audience, the imperial physician arrived quickly. After feeling Yi Qingyi's pulse, the elderly imperial physician's expression grew increasingly confused, yet he dared not speak casually. Noticing something was amiss, the maid at the door bit her lip, turned around, and rushed to old Madame Su's courtyard. There's nothing wrong with concubine Yi's pulse, the imperial physician said. Then why does she keep having abdominal pain? The elderly imperial physician thought for a moment, then stated firmly, "Her pulse is smooth and steady. Like pearls rolling on a plate, the fetus is very healthy. As for the abdominal pain, logically speaking, there shouldn't be any. Forgive my incompetence, I really can't find the cause," although Su Hua was confused. He breathed a sigh of relief when he heard the fetus was unharmed. Just as the imperial physician was about to leave, he noticed me in the corner. "Oh, Miss Lin, if this injury isn't treated in time, these marks will take half a month to fade." Su Hua finally seemed to notice the bruises on my neck. "How can you be so delicate?" He looked bewildered. "I only used 3 parts of my strength. I really couldn't understand." Yi Qingyi, a gentle Jiangnan woman. How could she have taken a fancy to this foolish brute of a warrior? Fortunately, my father had met this elderly imperial physician several times before. Perhaps out of compassion, he searched his medicine box for healing ointment. Su Hua had insisted on dragging me here, planning to interrogate me once the imperial physician found something wrong. But when several famous doctors in the capital and the palace's imperial physician all found nothing amiss, it was clear who the real problem was. Concubine Yi claims she developed abdominal pain after drinking tea in our courtyard. But General, you only need to investigate to find out. Ever since our young lady married into this mansion, her food, clothing, and daily necessities have been cut repeatedly. The tea allocated to her is scarce and of poor quality. I think Concubine Yi has never seen such tea before. She put it down after just one glance. How could she have eaten something bad in our courtyard? Su Hua frowned, clearly disbelieving. Nonsense. Household management has always been in Mother and Qingyi's hands. Qingyi is always kind-hearted. How could she cut back on your supplies? Is that so? He trusted Yi Qingyi so much that he defended her without hesitation. But Su Hua knew nothing about the inner workings of a noble family's backyard. By saying this, he also confirmed that in the general's mansion, a concubine was in charge and that he, Su Hua, favored his concubine over his legal wife. Why doesn't the general investigate thoroughly? What's so hard about investigating? It hurts, cousin, it hurts so much. Yi Qingyi's cries of pain came from the inner room. Su Hua didn't have time to order an investigation. He rushed into the inner room. The elderly imperial physician wiped the cold sweat from his forehead with his sleeve, looking embarrassed and awkward as he glanced at me. He had never expected that a simple pulse diagnosis would expose so many inner courtyard secrets. "What are you still doing here? If anything happens to my grandson, I'll make you pay." Afraid of being exposed, Yi Qingyi's maid finally fetched old Madame Su. Realizing there were outsiders present, old Madame Su restrained her attitude, ordering her maid to see the imperial physician out properly. She glared at me, then hurried to check on her beloved niece and grandson. Nonsense. Investigate what? If this gets out, it will only make us a laughingstock. But I won't allow her to slander Qingyi like this. I didn't know what agreement the 3 of them reached in the inner room, but when they came out, Su Hua never mentioned investigating the household management again. "Miss," looking at Fang Lu's worried face, my resolve strengthened. "It's fine." 6. News of this incident eventually reached the palace. To save face, the emperor reprimanded Su Hua severely and fined him half a year's salary. After the eunuch delivering the imperial edict left, Su Hua's face was ashen. Yi Qingyi wept bitterly, while old Madame Su looked at me with venomous resentment. Only I remained expressionless, thinking the punishment was too light, completely unsatisfying. But this also meant that the emperor's pity for me was fading. What annoyed me even more was that war had broken out again on the border, and Su Hua would soon depart for the battlefield. This trivial punishment would soon be forgotten. He went to the palace to request permission to take Yi Qingyi with him on the campaign. There were many idle noble ladies in the capital, and the servants of various mansions had more or less connections, so gossip spread quickly. But with so many people talking, the story soon became distorted. Before long, rumors claimed I was a jealous and shrewish wife who had made the concubine's life unbearable, forcing the general to take her with him to the army for fear that leaving her alone in the capital would result in her and the child's death at my hands. In short, the rumors painted me as crueler than Empress Lu, but I felt more wronged than Do Yi. catching the faint smile of triumph in old Madame Su's eyes. I knew she was behind this slander. Su Hua took Yi Qingyi away without the slightest hesitation because she was the one he wanted to protect. He had no idea that taking a pregnant concubine with him to war was a blatant sign of distrust towards his legal wife. I became a laughingstock among the capital's noble ladies. This only reinforced the rumors. Even if I divorced and remarried, the stigma of being a jealous wife would follow me for the rest of my life. Unfortunately, my mother had valued her reputation above all else. I could no longer stay in the general's mansion. This day came sooner than expected. But I never imagined that Su Hua, who had always wanted to drive me away to make room for Yi Qingyi, would refuse to let me go. 7. Su Hua's entourage set off in a mighty procession. Watching their figures depart, old Madame Su stood at the gate of the general's mansion, wiping her tears. If it weren't for you, Qingyi wouldn't have to go to that bitter, cold place while pregnant. Old Madam, do you really not know in your heart whether I harmed her or not? She froze for a moment, looking at me with a complex expression. I just dislike your temperament exactly like your mother's. I don't know why you dislike my mother. I never heard them mention you, and they would never speak ill of others like you do. You, old Madame Su was choked with anger. Just like your mother, obviously snatching something that belongs to someone else, yet putting on an air of superiority. Looking down on everything, I didn't understand. Was she saying I had snatched something from Yi Qingyi, or that my mother had snatched something from her? But Su Hua and I's engagement was arranged entirely by the Su family, even with the intention of revenge. Who would have thought they would end up shooting themselves in the foot if my mother had snatched my father away? But he and old Madame Su were only childhood sweethearts. If they had truly loved each other, why would my father have married someone else? From what I know, you and my father were never engaged, so how can it be said that someone snatched something from someone else? Old Madame Su's face turned pale instantly, as if her deepest secret had been exposed. She fell into a daze, lost in old memories. I bowed respectfully, then left with Fang Lu. Since my bad impression in her eyes was irreversible, why should I endure her nonsense everywhere? The consequence of offending old Madame Su was that my situation in the Su family became even more difficult. But it didn't matter, I wouldn't be staying here much longer anyway. 3 months later, Su Hua returned victorious. The emperor was overjoyed, showering him with rewards. The entire general's mansion was filled with joy. Fang Lu had been worried for days. It's over. It's over. Now concubine Yi's ego will really skyrocket. This isn't like the storybooks at all. Me. I should have stopped her from reading so many storybooks back in the minister's mansion. Su Hua returned to the mansion in glory with Yi Qingyi, and the entire household celebrated. Old Madame Su's eyes were filled with tears. Mother, are you well? Your son is unfilial for making you worry. Su Hua knelt deeply with Yi Qingyi. Qingyi endured countless hardships following your son, and with child too, she has truly suffered. In a few days, your son wishes to elevate her to co-wife. As soon as he said this, everyone's eyes turned to me. I had to admit, Su Hua had chosen the perfect timing. On one side was a declining noble family, on the other, a general who had just made great military achievements. Even if he poisoned me now, the emperor would probably turn a blind eye. Old Madame Su wore a mocking, watchful expression, pretending to look hesitant. Qingyi has continued the Su family line. She is a meritorious member of the family, and this is well deserved. But Lin Xiong has only been married for less than a year and hasn't borne any children yet. She wanted me to submit and beg for mercy, as if she could defeat my mother through me, precisely because she hasn't borne any children. This must be done, now that your son has an eldest son. He must not be born a concubine's child. Everyone's eyes turned to me once again. 8. Even if you elevate her to co-wife, the legitimate status of the child will still be unjust and illegitimate. Yi Qingyi's body trembled, as if she felt she had troubled everyone, or as if she had been frightened by me. Su Hua suddenly raised his eyes, his sharp gaze a warning. It was the first time he had looked at me in 3 months. I smiled faintly and took out the divorce papers I had long prepared from my sleeve. Only by divorcing me and remarrying will concubine Yi's child have a proper legitimate status. Yi Qingyi was stunned. Su Hua was dumbfounded. And old Madame Su widened her eyes in shock. They thought I was helpless and could only be manipulated by them, but they were wrong. Su Hua felt humiliated and couldn't help but roar angrily. What nonsense are you talking about? It's just co-wife status, this is what Qingyi deserves anyway. Do you really think this general dares not divorce you? As a second-rank official, divorcing your wife without just cause, if you're not afraid of impeachment by the censors, then neither am I. Su Hua frowned in thought. Although he had just made great achievements, my engagement to him was the emperor's compensation to an orphaned girl like me. If he really divorced me, he would appear arrogant due to favor. His political enemies who disliked him would also take the opportunity to impeach him. At that time, not only he, but probably Yi Qingyi would suffer too. No, I don't agree, cousin. Yi Qingyi's eyes filled with tears. She tugged at Su Hua's sleeve. Looking extremely confused. The time is not right. You can't leave yet. If you become jealous and demand a divorce just because I want to take a co-wife, your reputation will be ruined if it gets out. Even if you remarry, you won't find a good family. Cousin, you care so much about her, could it be that? Yi Qingyi stumbled, as if she had suffered great grievances. Su Hua held her hand to comfort her. Over these days, I had endured countless cold stares and harsh treatments in the mansion. Becoming a laughingstock among all the noble ladies in the capital, that little bit of heartbeat I felt in the prison had long vanished into thin air. Su Hua thought that by compromising this much, I should be grateful, but I was determined to leave. Old Madame Su was choked with anger. You're simply unreasonable. Su Hua flew into a rage. If you want to leave, the Su family won't force you to stay, but you can't take anything from the mansion. Very well. Fang Lu is my dowry maid, I'll only take her with me. I placed the divorce papers in front of him. Sign them. Su Hua froze for a moment, seemingly unable to understand why I was so resolute. He said coldly, the clothes on your body also belong to the Su mansion. You're not allowed to take them, miss. They're going too far. Fang Lu was indignant. I was a little surprised, but it was not unacceptable. This shoddy fabric was scratchy even through the undergarment, obviously the lowest grade. Taking it off was no loss. I reached out to untie my sash. Suddenly, Yi Qingyi stepped forward to block Su Hua, pointing at me and shouting, "You're utterly shameless." What? Did she think that at this point, I still had the intention to seduce her precious man? I only found it ridiculous, truly a couple in harmony. No one is competing with you, having been repeatedly defied by me today. Su Hua looked at me with eyes that could kill. I took off my outer robe, threw it at their feet, and turned to walk toward the main gate of the general's mansion. I didn't look back, so I didn't see Su Hua's tightly clenched fists. Old Madame Su had been silent all this time. Now she stood up in shock, muttering, You really are going to leave like this?" Fang Lu cried, trying to take off her own clothes to put on me. "Miss, you have to care about your reputation." I stopped her. "Silly Fang Lu, isn't your reputation important too?" Fang Lu cried even louder. "Miss, why is this not like what's written in the storybooks? Don't be afraid, I wasn't naked, I still had my undergarments on, even if people gossiped. It was better than being a poor wretch in the general's backyard who could be framed at will, pitted whenever mentioned. In just 1 year, I had experienced family changes, the death of my parents, and what I thought was a good marriage had ended up like this." I knew Fang Lu meant well, fearing that my ruined reputation would prevent me from remarrying, but after going through what I did with Su Hua, if I still pinned my hopes on marriage, I would have wasted all the teachings from my parents, letting them down and letting myself down. 9. When we reached the main gate, several maids from the courtyard, having heard the commotion, secretly followed us out. "Madam, you've always taken good care of us servants, we have nothing to give you, but here's a new dress, please don't dislike it." Before, when Su Hua never came to my courtyard, I had no tasks for them, so they mostly had free time to chat. I rarely scolded the servants. I never thought that would be considered a kindness. "Thank you for your kindness. Hurry back, if the steward finds out, you'll be punished." Old Madame Su detested me. If she knew the servants had acted on their own behind her back, these people would surely be severely disciplined. I didn't want to implicate them, so I left only with Fang Lu. "Miss, where are we going?" The new year was approaching. and the cold wind was quite biting. I shivered. First, let's buy some clothes to wear. Before my mother passed away, she had left me all the remaining silver notes in her makeup box. There wasn't much, but I had told Fang Lu to sew them into her clothes. Fortunately, I hadn't fully trusted Su Hua back then. If this money had been kept in the inner room, I would have had nothing on me today. After Fang Lu and I settled down, I began to plan how to get my dowry back. The day the entire family was imprisoned, all our belongings had been sealed. Later, most of that dowry was a reward from the palace. Since Su Hua and I were divorced, it was only right that I get it back, but if he found an excuse to delay for a few days, there was nothing I could do. I had already set my sights on a shop. I needed to raise money as soon as possible. The next day, news of my divorce from Su Hua spread throughout the capital. Walking on the street only in my undergarments had ultimately insulted the emperor's dignity. Su Hua was summoned to the palace for questioning. To preserve the royal dignity, the emperor forbade him from immediately elevating Yi Qingyi to co-wife. But Su Hua truly loved Yi Qingyi, even willing to offend the emperor for her. It was said that the emperor was furious and severely reprimanded Su Hua. "Miss, everyone is talking about how General Su was admonished by the emperor. I told you, the storybooks are true, but I don't think General Su is your good match. He's just a supporting character. Your good marriage is still ahead, Fang Lu. From now on, you're not allowed to read storybooks anymore." If she kept reading them, her brain would turn to mush. I was the only one left of the Lin family. I registered as a female household at the government office, which would make everything more convenient for me in the future. From now on, I would be the head of the Lin family. 10. News of my divorce reached my maternal grandfather's family in Yangzhou. My third uncle soon came to the capital, wanting to take me back to Yangzhou. In my maternal grandfather's family, my cousins were not good at studying and had failed the imperial examinations. So my maternal grandfather no longer pinned all the family's hopes on officialdom, but instead told them to go into business. Yangzhou was a prosperous place, and the Shen family was quite wealthy, but I had 4 uncles, and my maternal grandfather was already elderly. As an orphaned girl, I was afraid I would be a burden if I went there. Even if I did go, my maternal grandfather couldn't protect me for the rest of my life. Most likely, they would find me another suitable husband to marry. I didn't want that, as if my entire life could only depend on marriage. When I was at home before, my mother had taught me how to manage a household. She said I was not necessarily inferior to my cousins. After much thought, it was better to have a place to stand on my own. Using the private money my maternal grandfather gave me, I took over a study, naming it Xianxia Cottage. My father had loved reading more than anything. When the Lin family was sealed up, no one wanted these books. Now they were perfect for use here. Third uncle was closest to my mother. He directly sent several stewards from Yangzhou to help me. Xianxia Cottage opened for business. The shopkeeper was once the legitimate daughter of the Minister of Works, a divorced wife from the Su family. This caused a sensation in the capital. After all, female shopkeepers were rare there. Every day, Xianxia Cottage was crowded with people. However, few came to read books or taste tea. They came to see how this former noble lady had fallen to become an ordinary person who had to show her face in public. Looking at the endless stream of people every day, Fang Lu was both excited and scared, always telling me to rest upstairs, fearing I couldn't bear this decline in status, but breathing in the free air, I only felt extremely relaxed. 11. Once people's curiosity faded, the number of customers at Xianxia Cottage dropped sharply. That day, I was thinking of a solution when Su Hua arrived, unshaven. He seemed to have been standing at the door for a while, but no one had greeted him, looking quite awkward. Both Fang Lu and I stared at him unfriendly, feeling uncomfortable under our gaze. He said, "I've come to buy books." "You're buying books here? Had all the other studies in the capital closed down?" He nodded. I had no choice but to point to the bookshelves behind him, signaling for him to look for himself. I had already thought of a solution, but it required a lot of money. My eyes turned, and I looked at Su Hua and my dowry at his house. He brought several books to the counter to pay. I thought he was acting strange today and didn't know how to bring it up. Just as he was about to leave, I called out, "Wait. What's the matter?" He moved quickly, as if he had been waiting for this question. When will you return my dowry? That's it. Su Hua looked confused. Do you think I would covet your dowry, then return it to me? He pursed his lips. I'll go ask the steward when I get back. It might take a few days. Oh, all right. I knew it wouldn't be that easy. Su Hua still didn't leave, standing there like a door god. It seems you're living well. I looked at the nearly empty study, wondering where he had drawn that conclusion. A few days ago, the emperor summoned me, and I learned some things. Su Hua looked somewhat embarrassed. I know I wronged you in some matters. My mother was widowed at a young age, so her temperament is inevitably a bit extreme. Qingyi didn't mean to. In any case, I sincerely apologize to you. The way you talk, it's as if only the two of them have had a hard life. 12. As soon as these words were spoken, Su Hua's expression was quite vivid. He had repeatedly humbled himself in front of me, but I was not moved at all. After a long while, he said, our two families have always had ties from our ancestors. I didn't intentionally make you a laughingstock, nor did I really want you to leave the mansion without your outer robe. I didn't expect you to have such a fiery temperament. Su Hua, have you always been so conceited? Every time you say you didn't mean it, but every time you go to the extreme. I'm sorry. His fingers unconsciously tightened. Moreover, the day Yi Qingyi faked abdominal pain, you almost strangled me. Now you just apologize casually. Do you think your apology is so valuable? Forget it. Your apology is useless. I can't strangle you back anyway. I waved my hand. Hurry up and leave. I'm relieved to see you living well now. If you're really guilty, return my dowry as soon as possible. I need it. No matter how nice the words are, actions speak louder. Are you in a hurry for money? I'll get some from the mansion for you first. No need. I don't want to go to your mansion again to pay it back. Hurry up and leave. It's not good if someone sees us. Su Hua seemed to have more to say, but I was already tired of listening. Men's words are deceptive. Waiting for him to return my dowry is better than borrowing from a bank. Finally, he took out a token, saying that if I had any trouble, I could go to the general's mansion to find him. And he would help unconditionally. I casually told Fang Lu to put it away. A man's guilt doesn't last forever. 13. I opened private rooms on the second floor. I placed some famous paintings and calligraphy works as well as my father's collected books there. Those who could appreciate these works were all distinguished people, and there were also many noble young masters who pretended to be refined, if they could come and go often. We would not have to worry about high-end customers at Xianxia Cottage. My father had many close friends over the years. Some of them held official positions in the court, while others were already renowned painters and calligraphers. One young man in green even gave several of his own works, each worth 1,000 gold. Although I didn't know the connection between my father and this famous Xiajian in the capital, I was embarrassed to accept such expensive gifts. So I discussed with him and agreed to give him a commission from the study's profits. He just smiled gently, perhaps thinking that this small amount of money was insignificant, but I insisted on giving it to him, and to everyone who cooperated with Xianxia Cottage. This is the way to make money. Fang Lu whispered, Miss, I get it now. This young master is your good match. That's how it's written in the storybooks. The female protagonist has a rough fate at first, marries the wrong person. But as long as she leaves the vicious original spouse, there will always be a gentle and jade-like young master to match her, and then live a smooth life ever after. You're wrong. Whether life is smooth or not depends only on your own state of mind. Some people think that marrying a good husband makes life complete, but others can live freely and happily without getting married. But if a woman doesn't get married, people will gossip about her. You just said she's the protagonist. Why care what the supporting characters say? Xiajian was standing with his back to us, reading a book. When he heard this, he actually smiled faintly. How embarrassing, he could hear us. 14. The new year was approaching. I was going to my maternal grandfather's house in Yangju for the new year, but Su Hua still hadn't returned my dowry. I had to send someone to ask. How unlucky it would be to drag these messy things with the Su family into the new year. The Su mansion kept putting it off, saying they would definitely return it after the new year. I quietly asked a maid who used to be in my courtyard, and only then found out that the dowry list didn't match. Since I left the mansion, Although Yi Qingyi couldn't be immediately elevated to main wife due to the emperor's order, she was the only mistress of the Su mansion and was pregnant, so she naturally had the final say, curious about what was in my dowry. She ordered the servants to break into the warehouse where the dowry was stored and take a look. The next time the warehouse door was opened was when Su Hua was going to return the dowry to me and ordered the steward to check the list. Problems arose during the check. 2 hairpins, 1 hair clasp, and some exquisite small items were missing. Other things didn't matter. But those pieces of jewelry were all from the palace, extremely luxurious. Only Yi Qingyi and Su Hua had opened the warehouse door. Who took them was conceivable. Moreover, trivial matters like checking the list were all entrusted to the servants. With so many people involved, Su Hua couldn't cover it up even if he wanted to. Yi Qingyi was now in a dilemma. If she admitted it, she would probably never hold her head up in the Su mansion for the rest of her life. She could only insist that she was innocent, so it was delayed until today. Madam, no, Miss Lin. You don't know, this concubine Yi is really from a small family. She's never seen good things before, and she dares to covet the former madam's dowry. Old madam has rarely taught her how to manage the household lately. Many things are entrusted to the steward. Since this dowry incident, old madam has fallen seriously ill. Concubine Yi said that if the general doesn't believe in her innocence and insists on divorcing her, she can only die to prove her innocence. The little maid had sneaked out. I told Fang Lu to give her some silver and send her back safely. It seemed that I wouldn't get my dowry back before the new year. 15. The capital had been chaotic recently, and several shops had been robbed. Shuangshi Cottage was not spared. My maternal grandfather was worried about my safety alone, so he sent someone to help me look after the shop and told me to leave for Yangju as soon as possible. That day, just as Fang Lu and I left the capital, we were stopped by Su Hua's men. He gasped for breath as he lifted the carriage curtain. Where's the token I gave you? Did you throw it away? I'm already investigating the robber incident and have made some progress. Why are you leaving suddenly? He said a lot in one breath, and I finally understood. Probably seeing my many bags and bundles, he thought I was leaving the capital and never coming back. But Su Hua had always been arrogant, with his whole heart and eyes on his beloved cousin. Why was he suddenly so abnormal? I was still thinking when Su Hua suddenly said again, if you find it difficult to live alone as a woman, you can come back to the mansion with me first. An answer seemed to be on the tip of my tongue. I tentatively asked, what identity should I go to your mansion with, co-wife? Are you possessed by an evil spirit? I don't even want to be the main wife, and you still want me to be your concubine. What I mean is, if you want to leave the Su mansion in the future, you can go at any time. Su Hua, do you think that if you give me a place to stay, I will be grateful to you? Did you lose your mind from fighting wars? If you have nothing to do, hurry up and find a way to gather my dowry and return it to me. Stop acting crazy outside every day. Su Hua was stunned. I pulled the curtain out of Su Hua's hand and told the coachman to leave quickly, fearing that I would be infected by his madness. Unexpectedly, Su Hua chased after us again, holding that token in his hand. When I was packing things today, I saw this jade token. I thought it was useless anymore, and I didn't want to have any more dealings with the Su family, so I casually gave it to a beggar at the door. I didn't expect Su Hua to pick it up again. You can even lose my dowry. What other wishes of mine can you fulfill? Keep this ugly token to amuse children with. Compared to my dowry, it was insignificant. Those were all from the palace. I didn't know when I would get them back. 16. My maternal grandfather revealed that he wanted me to marry my second aunt's nephew as his second wife, but that man was tall and burly with a beard, which scared me. As soon as the new year was over, I hurried back to the capital. My maternal grandfather also understood my meaning. But he was still worried about me being alone, so he wanted to buy some property for me to rely on. So I opened another restaurant. The chefs and ingredients were all from Yangju, very authentic, and the business was very good. I didn't need to take much care of the study and the restaurant anymore, so I planned to open a fabric shop. I wanted to be the richest woman in the capital. Su Hua finally returned my dowry. However, there were several scratch marks on his face. The maid said that he had found the missing jewelry from Yi Qingyi's room. But this matter was eventually known by the palace. The emperor was just trying to suppress the Su family's arrogance, so he imposed a crime of great disrespect on Su Hua, who was severely flogged. After this incident, Yi Qingyi's wish to become the general's wife was also shattered. There were many idle people in the capital, and all kinds of gossip never stopped. But I had no time to listen carefully because my fabric shop and rouge shop were about to open. I had always yearned for the lychees in Lingnan. This year, I could take a boat to pick them myself. Extra story. At first, I only felt sorry for her. At such a young age, she suddenly encountered a great disaster and lost her parents. I couldn't bring myself to say the words to break off the engagement. I had to marry her, but marrying her meant letting down Qingyi, as a concubine's daughter. If I abandoned her again, her life would be even more difficult. Later, after the marriage, I knew about many things that happened in the mansion, but I could only turn a blind eye. After all, I had wronged Qingyi. It was normal for her to vent her anger. Moreover, Qingyi was pregnant with my child. When she lay in my arms and said that she was of low status and only wanted the position of co-wife, my heart softened. I just didn't expect Lin Xiong to have such a fiery temperament. She insisted on leaving the mansion at all costs. I didn't understand at that time. Later, many people told me that she had suffered a lot. By the time I understood, it was already too late. A transparent woman like her never gives others a chance to turn back. Later, the crimson mole on the heart became a mosquito bloodstain. Qingyi had many shortcomings: shallow knowledge, inability to manage the household. After the dowry incident, even the servants in the mansion laughed at her. But I couldn't say anything. She would never understand. I could only muddle through year after year.